Good evening. I hope that you are doing very, very, very well tonight. Tonight I am going to be showcasing my Telethenian Conlang. But first, I want to talk a little bit about what's been going on. I originally was planning to make this series so that I could learn more of my own Conlangs for the ASMR roleplay video I did last Halloween. And I really enjoy doing these sorts of roleplays because I like being in a character and being immersed in a world. And part of being immersed in a world for me is having the language accurately reflect what the people might actually speak in this other world. And I wasn't really expecting this series to catch on very much, but it ended up being one of the most viewed things on my channel. So I figure I will just keep making more. I also like listening to myself read off lists of words in fake languages, and if you do too, you should stick around. So with that, let's begin. Telethenian was intended to be my beautiful language, if you will. And in English, as Tolkien sort of has established for us, we really like sound. We like it when things sound like Welsh a lot. We really like the Selador. That's the phrase that Tolkien said was the most beautiful, probably. And so my goal with this language was to create sounds that were pleasing, that felt like Selador does in Tolkien's Elvish. This time around, I will go over my phonology. I still don't know the IPA, so something that's always important to me with my phonologies is that I'm using English-esque sound, or at least standard American English-esque sounds, because that's what I speak, and I want to be able to pronounce at least vaguely accurately my languages. So, the phonology has b, k, pl, d, f, g, j, k, l, m, n, p, pr, r, s, z, sp, f, t, v, in terms of its consonants. And then in terms of its vowels, it's got a, I, e, u, o, yeah, u. This language has a number of different consonant vowel structures, but it's typically consonant vowel CV, not CVC, and it usually ends in with the final the final consonant being either S or N. So let's get into the grammar. Telethenian has subject, object, verb order. This is the same as Japanese and kind of Latin, I believe. The adjectives in Telethenian are verb-based, and because the verbs come after subjects and objects, they also come after our nouns. In order to form a verb from a noun, in order to form a adjective from a verb, you take the verb, you drop the ending, and then you add IAN to the end. So for instance, if you had the word alas, it would become alien if it was an adjective. And if you had aftercratoria, you would have aftercratorian. And in some cases, if the sounds are there, for instance, the name Genesea becomes Genesian. I imagine the speakers themselves have intuitive rules about it, maybe that they follow, but they don't necessarily even know that they can articulate. So so what rules those are whatever I feel, but cannot articulate. This language primarily uses suffixes when it comes to its modifiers. So for instance, in, at, on, those come after the words that they're for. So possessors go before possessees. You turn the name of the possessor into an adjective, and then you add N or en to the ending. So to say Diacaeus' cat, you would say Diacaean kiru. And the reason that possessors and possessees aren't in the same order as their adjectives, because you'd think those things would be linked, is because this language evolved from another language that had specifically had its possessor go before its possessee, and so they've just sort of kept that, even though a lot of the other adjectives have changed over the years. Another important thing about this language is it has this thing called ergativity, I think it's called. And this is where certain forms of a word indicate whether it's the subject or the topic or the object. I've sort of created forms that are a little bit like Japanese with this, in this regard. I've got subject form, topic form, object form, and indirect object form, and this changes the ending of a noun. So the subject form will always end in us, es, or os. The topic form just drops the s. And this is from the dictionary, the dictionary form, which will typically end in us, or which is to say the subject form. The object form will then end in as, and the indirect object form ends in is. Noun forms also include single, plural, palkal, and collective. These are different ways of describing pluralizations. If you don't know, plural is more than one. Palkal means specifically some, and collective means all of them. And something that's very important is that when you're discussing, for instance, love in the abstract, you would probably use the collective form in this language to indicate that you mean all loves, as opposed to, in English, you can just say love singularly to indicate that it's the concept of love, rather than the love between two specific people. The forms of this: single, you just leave it as is, as with the correct ergative ending to it. With plural, you add I, or if you're in topic form, you add si. And if you're in some other ergative form, you add I to the end. In palkal form, you add ens. In topic form, you add thens. And in other forms, you also just add ens, but you put the ens before the ergative form. So, for instance, if you have kiris, which means kitten, you would say kirensis. And then lastly, the collective form, you drop the ending of, which is typically us, and add ia instead. And ia comes after ergative forms in the case of anything other than the subject. To indicate that someone is a doer of things, you add ries to the end of it. And many last names end in ri because it's a topic. So for instance, Diacaeus Praephori means that Diacaeus is a Praephorius, which is an engineer. So, let's get into conjugation. Verbs, you can turn a verb into a noun by adding tion to the end. So for instance, I was moving, I have motion is something that you can kind of say in English. In this, you add us to the end of it, or the other appropriate just noun ending. However, if you're making it a noun in the way that we have ing nouns, or we treat ing verbs like nouns, in this you just use the true future form of a verb. And lastly, the dictionary form, the sort of passive, unconjugated to be form, is just the dictionary form of it. Now, let's get into some conjugation properly. Words in Telethenian are conjugated for time, formality, and whether it happened or it didn't. It does not conjugate for person or number of persons or the speaker, but these things are sort of implied. So, for instance, you could theoretically just say, like, I could just say Belle is, and that would be implied that my name is Belle. Or I am Belle. We will use the verb to be to conjugate all of our words to give you an example of how they're conjugated. We'll start with the informal present, or near future. Affirmative, you drop the n, sera. Negative, drop an, add en, seren. Imperative, sero. Imperative negative, sereno. Past positive, seri. Past negative, serien. Imperfect past. Happened. Affirmed. Seria. Imperfect past negative. Serian. True future, also the participle form. Seré. Negative. Serene. And then for formal usage, present, near future, affirmed. Será siri. Negative. Será sira. Politely requesting something. Será siro. Positive. Será sireno. Don't do it, please. Past. Affirmed. Será vi. Negative. Será bien. Imperfect past. Será via. Será bien. For the affirmed and the negative. And lastly, true future. Serila. Serila do. Alright, and with verbs out of the way, let's get into the lexicon, or the vocabulary from this language. I will say the word, and then I will say the word, and then repeat it, and then give you an opportunity to say it for yourself. Greetings. Athavia. Athavia. Yes. Ray. Ray. No. Da. Da. Excuse me. Miedes. Miedes. Sorry. Mia thirane. Mia thirane. Thank you. Iviri. Iviri. You're welcome. Ivirien. Ivirien. Congratulations. The Varia. The Varia. It. Thovus. Thovus. To form a question, it behaves much like the question particle ka in Japanese, in that you just stick e on the end of a statement. E? E? To say, I wish good health to you, you say, Tharas a igeos me. Tharas a igeos me. What? Veas. Veas? Who? Vethas. Vethas? Where? Vethos? Vethos? When? Tavathis? Tavathis? Tavathis. Why? Neveas? Neveas. How? Vikiras? Vikiras. How many? Kaehas. Kaehas. Therefore. Dana. Dana. However. Senia. Senia. To form the superlative, you take the noun from the adjective, and then you put the adjective from the adjective together. To say very much, very or much, you say vasa, vasa. Also, as well, may, may. This and that are Isian and Isian. Isian this, Isian that. Because uta, uta, of, ra, but ra is not said very frequently. Ra. To or for is a. At, u. By is la. From or in order to, de. In is me. On is o. And is ta. Or is e. With is to. Almost is vi. If is do. And nonetheless or anyway is dusa. Dusa. I or me, neus, neu, neas. That's sort of like the those are the different ergative forms there. You, tarus, taris, tari, tarens, taras. The third person pronoun is gender neutral. Alus, alas. We, inclusive, exclusive, is neia or neans. This is, incidentally, just the plural forms of neus, I or me. They, them, is ali, alens, alia, or alasi, alensas, alasia. Person, people, is spanus for person, and people is taria. These come from incidentally different roots, but spanus can technically be pluralized to spania, but the word for people is more typically taria. To give someone a diminutive nickname, you add ini to the end of it. Family, vasegus. Mother, miarus. Father, dudicus. Parent, regius. Mommy is typically said, or the diminutive for mother is typically mia or mimi. And daddy is typically duri, dini, or sometimes even dudu. Son, daughter is rivanus. That's just more generally child. There's not if you need to specify their gender, you add the word for girl or son on a girl or boy onto it. The word for sibling is saregius. Lover, thymus. Friend, aspeus. Morning, senis. Evening, megeos. Day, afterdas. Night, ninus. Ninus. Week, camuris. Year, fagarius. Time, tadia. Last, vitha. Next, phenea. Since, before, vuta. Fate, kratos. Fateful or auspicious, then, is kratian. Light or high, gera. Dark or low, b. Name, kenis. To say a place, most ways, the way that you convert a noun into a place name is you add aurea to the ending. But to say the word for place is soris. Soris. City. Palace. Palace. Country. Kratoria. And this is the autokratoria, the self-country. World. Yssaia. Yssaia. This is incidentally can be found in the name of the whole world now, Yssaia. This is what I recently renamed the World of Fates. And if you want, you can check out more World of Fate stuff on my website. I'll have it linked in the website in the description box below. You know, the doobly-doo. Okay. Hill or rise. Thus. Island. Tellus. Home. Theus. Theus. State. State. Areas. Areas. Shop. Clophus. Clophus. Red. Oa. Oa. Blue. Green. Seas. Seas. Violet. Vicenian. Vicenian. Metal. Bilovinus. Bilovinus. Wood. Aeolus. Aeolus. Heat. Dialis. Dialis. Hot. Dialian. Dialian. Perfected thing. Kalios. Perfected, the adjective. Kalien. Kalios. Kalien. Goodness. Peus. Good. Hessian. Hessian. Nothing. No void. Daus. Nothing. Dazian. Self, or to say recursive, you say afto. Honor is paravus. The adjective is paravian. Honored. Humility. Thaphatus. Thaphatus. Humble. Thafuchin. 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 Heart. Covus. Covus. To be. Seran. Seran. There is, or there are, is said isu, the thing that there is or there are, and then seran, and you conjugate seran. To have, tian, tian. To give, doran, doran. To go, eftan, eftan. To come, uftan, uftan. To love, theman, theman. To like, resian, resian. To be born, lassen, lassen. To see, mushin, mushin. To fight, enidan, enidan. To submit, requiatan, requiatan. To use magic, biran, biran. To say, kinan, kinan. To know, safiran, safiran. To think, fitan, fitan. To make, ailan, ailan. To offer or to negotiate, etrian, etrian. To teach, to introduce, or to make known. Safelan. Safelan. To understand. Diudan. Diudan. To vote. Mayan. Mayan. To serve. Ethan. Ethan. To rule. Saran. Saran. To cause, to be at fault. Renan. Renan. To play. Pethan. Pethan. To allow or to permit, you used the word future formal and add vigyan. Vigyan. To say to should, you use the word future formal and then add kiathan. Kiathan. And to say to can, you add the word future form and then kopan. Kopan. And you conjugate all of these forms that you add at the end. Language, Vyasis, and this language is the Vyasis Telethenian. Name, Vyas, Vyas. Word, Fios, Fios. Health, Igeos, Igeos. War, Fiatos, Fiatos. Victory, Eos, Eos. Peace, Daviatos, Daviatos. Calling or purpose, Vanathalos, Vanathylos, Vanathylos. I know my own language well, it's fine. Life, Vanis, Vanis. Death, Los, Los. Love, Themis, Themis. Water, Virus, Virus. Earth, Asius, Asius. Fire, Rakias, Rakias. Air, Fira, Fira. Tree, Asimus, Asimus. Animal, Gaius, Gaius. Dragon, Curious, 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 Curious. Cat, Kiru. Dragon, Dragon, Curious, Curious. Cat, Kiru, Kiru. Rabbit, Muots, Muots. Goat, Mew, Mew. Ivory, Alephtis. Elephant, Alephtigos. Although the ivory beasts aren't exactly elephants, but close enough. Autocracy, Atarcatoria. Citizen, Cretorius. Philosopher, Phtasius. Robot, Aphtophanes. Senator, Carus, Carus. King, Malus, Malus. And this word can also be applied to other rulers of any gender, technically. Your radiance, Rigarian, Rigarian. This is the only appropriate way to address the philosopher king, ruler of the Aftercratoria. Terms, res, res. These are like the terms of an agreement, not the term that you might serve in government. Engineer, Praeforius, Praeforius. Inquisitor, Esparius, Esparius. Sirius, Eucurius, Eucurius. A male priest is a Eucurianius, Eucurianius. Oh no, it's just Euclidean. Oh, I was right. Never mind. Ignore me. A person who installs prosthetics is a Nicorius. A doctor is a Macreus. And a prosthetics doctor specifically is a Nicomacreus. A victim is a Murius. A victim who wins a trial and is given the reparation is an Immurius. An ecologist or a biologist or a natural philosopher is a Phytasius Vanianri. A player or an actor is Pythasius or a Pythanusius. Amin, 1. Sirius, 2. 3. Rhea, 4. Cosin, 5. Cogus, 6. Maris, 7. Cephas, 8. Sinus, 9. Viagus, 10. Agus. Let's count to 10 together. Amin, Sirius, Rhea, Cosin, Cogus, Maris, Cephas, Sinus, Viagus, Agus. To say 11, you just say Agus to Amin, 10 and 1, and you count up like that. 100 is Degusa, 1000 is Kogusa. Sine, the math function is Rebus. Cosine, Thatibus. Tangent, Sadegius. Quarter, Cogusian. Angle, Theacius. Equation, Fetalis. To calculate, Fetalan. Sum, Racus. Circle, Decus. To subdivide, Memicovisan. And to divide, Mikovisan. Let's end this Conlang showcase with some sample sentences. Hello, my name is Diacaeus. Athavia, veus nesian Diacaeus sera. That's very casual. More formally, you would say, Athavia, nesian veus Diacaeus sera siri. Life is good. Vanus patian sera. Vanus patian sera siri. That's more formal. That red thing was very bad. It was the worst. Dovas oas isian da pesian vasas seri. Dovas peas da pesian seri. That is informal. That red thing was very bad. It was the worst, in a more formal way. Dovas peas da pesian sera vien. In the morning, you will go to the city. Ultra casual. Senu, taris pelasas efte. Ultra polite. Senumi, taras pelasa eftila. I should fight with you. Neu tarasto enedilakiat. Excuse me, do I know you? Niedes, neus taras afire? They understand my mother because she uses magic. Alimiares nesian diuda utaberila copa. Last year, there were 1,111 green dragons. Fagarius vithat, isuke rayasi kogusa de gusa agosto amin seri. Notably in this sentence, green comes before numbers, unlike in English where numbers come before colors. He said, I like animals. alu neoskees resia askini. Congratulations on your daughter. Tavaria Ribana Satarian. I love you. Neotaristama. To say it casually, love you. Taristema. And just proclaim it more formally. Neotaristema Siri. There are 19 years since I was born. Neas lasi vutasion fagariu. Isu Augusto Viaga Seria. All right. Thank you very much for listening to me read a very long list of words from one of my well-developed conlangs. I hope that you found this relaxing and riveting as I found it to read. To thank you for reading it this far, and as you drift off away from me now, I would like to sing for you a song set to a melody you may recognize. This song is a duet between the Philosopher King, who is a young lady who is also a robot, who also has the ability to nuke all of her enemies with the magic stored in her left-hand ring finger, being a robot and all, and her father. And she's asking her father, "Father, why did you make me? Am I doing a good job?" And he says, "I love you. You're perfect. You will always be perfect, and I will always love you." Thanks for watching or listening, and enjoy.
City mogen maar